Hello, everyone. My name is Sri Ilaprolu. I'm the director for AWS's Generative AI Innovation Center. And I'm excited today to have one of our customers here, FINCA, and Scott Graham, who's their VP of Data Science and Research here with us today. Scott?
So FINCA is founded on the belief that poor people have the talent and the motivation to get out of poverty if they had access to the same resources that we take for granted. And so in that vein, we started by providing very small loans to women so that they could invest in enterprises to feed and educate their children. And that now we're also expanding into making investments in an emerging range of socially motivated companies that are finding new ways of meeting the basic needs of the poor, building on the success of financial inclusion.
Awesome. That sounds really impactful. Tell me a little bit about how you're leveraging generative AI and how did you arrive at that decision, especially for generative AI in the research space?
Well, we're still at a very early stage in our Gen AI journey. We've just completed a proof of concept for an automated research assistant. And the idea is that we want Gen AI to accelerate the path to knowledge and enable us as researchers to map new domains quickly so that we can support a very innovative program. And so for us, Gen AI is a way of helping us to find information that's out there in the public domain that's relevant to the areas that we're interested and quickly summarizing it and generating real insights into the ways that people can get out of poverty.
Awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about the impact the solution has already had?
Well, I think that so again, this is in a very early stage, but from the proof of concept, what we've learned is that Gen AI can be a very powerful way of quickly mapping out an initial thesis of impact. And so we're using a foundation model to help us take kind of general queries, general topics around poverty alleviation, and really flesh those out into a much more detailed thesis around how a certain kind of impact might unfold. And then we can use that map that's created by the foundation model to then generate new evidence by going out and feeding that map into search engines and research databases that can then retrieve all of the information that's relevant to the topics that the foundation model generated.
That's awesome. How are you leveraging AWS services like Amazon Bedrock or Amazon Titan?
Well, so we're all within, our entire system is within AWS. And so, of course, we always give priority to solutions that are native to the AWS environment for all the reasons that I'm sure you guys already know. But, Bedrock was very well suited to our needs to be able to make an initial mapping of an impact thesis. And so just its general training is well suited to creating kind of basic outline of topics and subtopics. And, the Titan text embeddings is very important for us to be able to extract content from the documents that we find, and then organize that content into a document library that's then accessible to us as researchers.
That's good to hear that you're leveraging Amazon Bedrock and Titan model. Curious, can you go a little bit deeper into explaining how the solution actually works?
Sure. So our automated research assistant works in 3 phases. And in the first phase, the researcher starts with a general query around a topic that we might be interested in, such as the delivery of learning through mobile apps. And so we want to understand that. So we start with that general query, and instead of, as we would have done in the past, going straight into search engines and databases and manually posing that query again and again, we pose that query to a foundation model, so Amazon Bedrock. And then Bedrock takes that initial query and maps out an understanding of that issue through what we call a topic model, which is really just an outline of themes and subtopics that respond to its understanding of that issue. And then comes process automation. And so each one of those subtopics and themes are then automatically fed into our search engines, which are fired up using Apache Airflow. And so we go from having one query to having, a couple dozen now simultaneous searches happening through all of these different databases, and this is all happening in an automated way. And so instead of us manually doing searches, we have the search engines fired up automatically. Then the second phase is when Ara has built a document library using all of the sources that it found. And so we now have an outline of the issue and a whole document library that's indexed to each piece of that outline. So that's the second phase. Then the third phase is curation. And this is the really important part because we don't want to just mindlessly depend on the AI. The whole point of Ara is to create an interface where the human being and the subject matter expert can really guide the AI towards a better representation of a topic using their knowledge. And so it's important in this curation phase, we've enabled the researcher, for example, to actually interact with the topic model, to tell it what it thinks to tell the topic model what we think is good or less convincing about its version of the world. And then you can also curate the document library. You can uprate, you can downrate documents, you can add new ones, you can delete ones. And this is important because it allows us to establish a context of a source of truth that we trust. So instead of, just relying on the black box of the foundation model, we're able to build a context that we actually know and trust. And then once that curation has happened, then there's a regeneration of the topic model using retrieval augmented generation. And now we come up with a new version of that impact pathway, but instead of it being whatever the foundation model thought at the beginning, it's a version of the impact pathway that is completely rooted in the context of our trusted sources of information. So it's those three stages of amplifying a query, building a document library, and then curating the results and driving them towards a better representation of the issue.
Which foundation model are you using?
We're using Anthropic Claude.
As you were going through this process of designing a solution and getting it into production, what are some lessons that you've learned that perhaps will be helpful for other nonprofits that are looking at Gen AI?
Well, I think for us, nonprofits do not typically, jump into technology solutions. We have a real attachment to our legacy processes, both in our programs and in our research. And so I think there is a certain culture and mind shift that needs to happen within our space to be more embracing of technology as a way of accelerating our impact. And I think that's that's again something where people need to become familiar, and they need guidance. And I think that's where AWS has been so influential in FINCA's journey, because they really met us where we were. Very early, we were just making those initial migrations to the cloud, for example, and AWS really triggered that migration. And as basic as that was, it was that crucial first step that brought us into the realm of cloud computing, managed services, and all the things that go along with that. So I think that just taking that first step onto the cloud is a really important, that's the foundation. And having a partner like AWS that can really help you navigate that space and that really takes the time to understand who you are and what you're trying to achieve so that you can really, pursue the best path for you. And I think having that kind of partnership really gives you the confidence to think big and to even achieve things that you, wouldn't have thought possible before you started.
Yeah. Now that you've gone through that journey, what's next? How are you thinking about taking Gen AI into more places that FINCA is involved in?
I think for us, it's really about unlocking the value of knowledge and the way that knowledge gets applied in our field. Our initial use case for our proof of concept is really built around researchers and helping us kind of create that foundation of understanding of a new topic. We really want that knowledge to filter into decision making and into practice. And so how do we then push the reporting, for example, so that we can get more insights from the documents that we assemble? What kind of prompt engineering frameworks are going to allow us to really understand not just, what is the structure of an issue, but like what are the real causal elements that enable people to get out of poverty. And so I think that, this is an area where we need to learn how to push the AI itself further, and we need to also really work with the implementers of the programs so that we can create the kind of outputs and knowledge products that will be really practical and useful to them, not just to us as researchers, where learning is its own good for us, but really putting it in the practical realm, where those learnings can give guidance to the people making program decisions.
Thank you, Scott. Again, appreciate you spending some time with us today. And as you continue your journey with AI and generative AI, let us know how we can help, and we will take this journey together.
Thank you.